Alright, another draft physics video presentation. Comments, sort of, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what to do with this whole conversation with people because they don't seem to understand any of it, frankly. It's almost like no point because everybody's off the point. Like from the very beginning, I've argued that the conventional theories are underdeveloped. That is, there's a lack of evidence. They have a small, tiny, little bit of evidence verifying their theory, and they've turned it into a hard conclusion. And nobody will admit, oh yeah, well, that's the simple answer to the problem. Is this rush to judgment, this impatience. I want the answer and I want it now. And it's kind of that simple, that physics has jumped its responsibility to be careful. And it's gotten really reckless and sloppy. And it invents new things all the time based on tiny reasons. So things like neutrinos. They have a little leftover energy, in a nuclear reaction. And they decide, well, we'll call it a particle and say it exists and say it's, yes, you can't detect it because it goes through everything, and they give it all kinds of properties because, yes, it behaves like energy. Because that's all it was in the beginning. It was a little bit of leftover energy, and they turned it into a something instead of what it was, which was leftover energy. Anyway, things like that. And they named it. They did all this stuff, and it wasn't even a fetus. It was just a theoretical thing, not a real thing. So I don't know. There's lots of ways to analogize it, but So anyway, a simple statement you make is that, wow, there's so little evidence for all these wacky theories they have. They invent new universes based on just about nothing. Dark matter, all this stuff, all kinds of stuff. So you can sort of analogize this to, there's the physical world is got some complexity in it. And so it's sort of like a magician, in that the magician is capable of doing things quickly enough that you don't see him do it. You can't see it. And so there's parts of physics that are like that. So like the magician, there's things happening that we can't fully see. We just see like, oh, bird in his hand. Look at that. He poofed a bird. And so we're trying to figure out, well, how did the bird get poofed into his hand? And, I'm sort of arguing they're coming up with the wackiest theory possible. Like the guy, backstage, he ate a bunch of pigeons, and he's got a special little hole in his shorts, and he's pooing out pigeons and, just reaching back and pulling out the pigeons out of his butt. Some kind of, their answers are not even close to, no, that can't be close to the right answer. Come on. There's got to be a better answer than that. But that's all we're doing, right? So people just, make up this crap to fit the evidence. Now, I'm arguing that, yes, their explanations are on their face vacuous, silly, invisible man kind of explanations. They're not even, there's no way they're the right answer. That's almost the best thing you can say. The least derogatory. Well, now it's close, but not close enough. Close, but no cigar on that one. I don't even know, because they're just so elaborate in terms of the special properties they're going to give things, entanglement, all this nonsense. Anyway. And so, in going through it, you have to sit there and spend some time and analyze it and figure out what are the possibilities. And, I'm conjecturing that there are explanations that are much simpler. So I'll link to the last video I made on the double slit experiment and see if anybody can make any kind of counter argument that it's a much cleaner, linear, straight line kind of explanation, both in its presentation, both in its form, and fundamentally in its structure, that doesn't require anything complicated or very complicated in terms of understanding why there's the results that exist and why they look the way they look. It predicts more, and it does it with a simpler mechanical mechanism. And so why doesn't that win? Why isn't that the better answer of the two solutions? To the mystery of the fact that light doesn't get through slits perfectly intact, exactly the way it was before it went in. It comes out a little different, and that's what we see. And all you're doing is saying, why does it come out different? And again, comparing the two theories, I don't see how a rational person says, oh yeah, their theory makes more sense. It's overtly less sensible. It fits the evidence less well, and it does so with a bunch of made up crap, stuff they can't even agree on. Copenhagen, many worlds, God does play dice with the universe, kind of bullshit. But anyway, I'm almost saying this is just such an impossible conversation. Because who am I talking to? And that's the whole point. The point is, you got to talk to somebody who knows something about this shit, that actually has some understanding of the mechanics, the realistic mechanics, and the realistic possibilities. That stuff doesn't move for free, that there is always something's got to make it do what it does. Matter doesn't do anything until something tells it to. Is that a bold and bizarre statement? Well, in some respects, I guess it is. Because it seems like some of physics doesn't want to believe that. Anyway, I don't even know how to characterize the conversation. Because it's not a conversation, first off. So I guess I'll get to this point first. I mean, I'm not here looking for followers. I'm not looking for you to accept my physics because Gary says so. Hasn't been in any of my videos. I'm attempting to persuade you of something kind of obvious. Their evidence sucks. Okay, I've done all I can do to demonstrate that it's not built on much. I've pointed out Einstein's doubling of how much photons are bent by light. The very fact that they're bent by light even is based on a stupid premise that all action in the universe is the same action, when it isn't. All the actions are a little bit different. They're subtly different. There's a difference between two electrons hitting each other and the force between the electrons hitting an electron. A photon hitting an electron is different than an electron hitting an electron. Simple things. I pointed out how, there's no good reason to sit there and say momentum equals frequency. We already have a definition for momentum that's about as simple as you can get. Mass and velocity. Why do we need to sit there and make an equal sign to some other letter? There's no point in it, and what purpose does it serve but to make a mistake? Because it isn't. It's obviously not the same thing. Frequency is a different concept. Why would I put an equal sign between two different concepts? So yeah, I'm attempting to persuade you that their physics isn't made of like this pristine process. I'm showing you their kitchen, and I'm saying, look at it. Would you eat food that comes out of this kitchen? Their kitchen is a mess. Okay, they're pigs. They just throw shit on the wall and say, there, muon, tau fluon. I mean, they even have this stupid neutrino that is a nothing particle almost. I mean, it's almost as close as you can get to nothing, and they call it an electron nuon, or a tau nuon. I mean, they give it all kinds of different masses, and I mean, it's just amazing nonsense. There's not just one form of this invisible, non-perceptible thing. The non-perceptible thing comes in 7 varieties. Well, how did they distinguish these varieties of the stupid thing when they can't even detect the stupid thing? Well, whatever. It's just, So I'm taking you in. I'm, giving you a videotape of their process. I show you the experiment, like Stern Gerlach or something. Explain. It's silver atoms. There's not an electron going through the experiment. There's whole atoms going through the experiment. And they're drawing all kinds of conclusions about what electrons do based on an experiment full of atoms. Does that make sense? I mean, I point out to you that Einstein never said anything about converting mass into something called bent space. He has no formula for doing that. So somewhere they made up this new radiation, this new form of radiation that isn't in a form that we know of that exists in the universe. It's some kind of new radiation called a bent space radiation or something. It doesn't do what normal radiation does, which is hit something and push it. No, instead it expands and contracts some sort of ethery, spacey glue. But there's absolutely no connection to some process where they debated or they did anything to establish this as a truth. Okay, it became a truth out of LIGO, because LIGO wanted to find gravitational waves, and this is the only way they could contrive an excuse to find them. I mean, I've sort of pointed out how the whole thing falls into place, right? They look at Michelson-Morley experiment and they say, well, let's make a really big one, and then it'll be really, really accurate. And then they figure out, oh yeah, but it's still not good enough. It's not long enough. So we still have to bounce the light through a bunch of mirrors. Now, Michelson-Morley only had 18 mirrors, because they had to use individual mirrors. Didn't figure out exactly how to make the light bounce back and forth through the same mirror. And LIGO's using 1600 essentially, bouncing a piece of light 1600 times into a mirror, and then saying it knows exactly how long that piece of light is. And I'm going to point out to you, how can that make any sense to you? So I'm not asking you to follow me. I'm asking you to concede the obvious, which is, yeah, there are some questions that they haven't answered. I mean, these are good questions, and they should answer the questions. I mean, they shouldn't just get away for free and just be able to say shit, And, I pointed out how they didn't do these detector experiments they always talk about with the two-slit experiment. All this wooey stuff about somehow it matters what if we figure out what hole it went through, then the photon changes. All this perception shit, like somehow it makes any sense to think your consciousness has something to do with what's happening to the photon. I'm giving you reason to be skeptical of that kind of wooey bullshit. That makes any sense. I mean, they give you this Heisenberg principle. Do you really fall for it, that the little stuff in the universe isn't like this big stuff, and that this piece of chalk isn't any place? That it's in any one of all of these places at once in some kind of invisible form, and it doesn't decide to become an actual piece of chalk until it hits something? You really, I mean, it's a silly explanation. It's so overtly silly. If I said that about the magic trick, that the bird poofs into his hand because his wife backstage is a shapeshifter, and she's capable of ESP sending birds to places, and so he could have put his hand anywhere, and his wife is poofing the bird there. I mean, the explanation is sillier than, you just couldn't get much sillier as an explanation for why something happens. Why we can't see this little thing, and we can't tell exactly where it is, but we know where it came from, and we know there's only a certain number of possibilities of where exactly it could be, and that's really the problem. We can't see it, but we know it's someplace. I mean, it's just, you don't think there's good reason to doubt that kind of crap when it isn't based on any special evidence. They don't have any special diagram of how this all works. They can't draw you a picture of any of it. And then when they do draw a picture, the picture is wrong. So back to the two-slit experiment. I mean, Young drew a picture in 1801. The picture isn't the picture of the two-slit pattern. It's not even an accurate picture. His diagram of what's happening doesn't explain the actual pattern. And I have to explain to you why there's some reason to doubt their theory? I have to get you to like me and follow me before you'll believe me? I don't want you to like me. I don't want you to follow. I want you to understand that the world is being run by a bunch of memes and notions that are fallacious. They're just bullshit. They're nothing more than a stupid, silly God theory. And here you are bowing and you're putting your rug down and you're doing all of this antics, blah, 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 blah. Why? Because mommy told you so? Because, oh, Carl Sagan is so sweet and he sent me a birthday card. Well, yeah, I could tell it was made out with a computer, but still, he sent it to me. I mean, it had my address on it. Well, yeah, I could see it was written by a computer, but no, it was my address. I mean, what the fuck are you doing here? Are you looking for the truth? Or are you looking for just some kind of bug to follow? Oh, it's a pretty bug. I'm going to go follow the bug. Oh, the bug likes me. It was tweeting a nice little song. I like the little tweets the bug makes. It wears a purple shirt. I like purple. What the fuck are you doing here? Anyway. Well, this sort of brings me. I might as well play a little clip from this idiot. Sorry, but you're a fucking idiot. Somewhere like in here. I mean, just too fucking stupid.
And for some reason, I got inspired to just do it with real life. And that's why.
So he wants to be a philosopher, but he doesn't really want. He wants to be a commentator and a talker. But he doesn't really want to have any real knowledge of anything he's talking about.
That's why at least I think they're here. They just want to see where I'm going with all this. Because it is kind of interesting. And they know that I have sort of the gumption to do this shit because I really just don't kind of give a fuck. I just want to know.
Yeah, you don't want to know anything. Okay, you want to make statements. You want to opine on things. And that requires that you actually have to make sure you're not going to say something fucking stupid. I mean, you can't make sure of it. I mean, I've made mistakes on this physics channel. No doubt about it. All right? But, I've made less mistakes than I made accurate statements. Let's put it that way. And my mistakes aren't catastrophic mistakes.
So, I'm here for them. Well, I'm here for me. But I want their input the most. Now, if y'all want to follow Gary down some...
So this is the crap. You say to yourself, okay, so what I did was say, look, you insulted me, right? You talked about me in a comment section like I was a thing. Like you saw on the side of the road. Like a blown out tire or something. You talked about me like I was a blown out tire on the side of the fucking road. You didn't introduce yourself to me. You didn't do any of that kind of crap. You played a video and then you doubted, my credulity for no good reason. All right? I said the Eddington experiment hasn't been repeated. Now, I could have said I have done years of research and I found no evidence of it successfully being repeated. That is, past the margin of error. The results, it's been attempted a couple of times and failures for reasons I explained. And... I could have said all that crap, but it doesn't really matter. And your response was, I don't think so. And I'm not supposed to be pissed off. And then you talk shit about me in a comment section about how I'm an uncredible guy and therefore everything I talk about is uncredible because you don't believe me based on no fucking evidence. So you disbelieve me based on no personal evidence you have that the Eddington experiment was performed from space or that any of this shit was done. And you're saying, I'm not supposed to be offended. I'm not supposed to be pissed off. Who the fuck are you, asshole? I mean, yeah, I can be pissed off. I can find that personally rude, you jackass. You're too stupid to figure that out? That if I talked shit about you in my comment section without even knowing who the fuck you are, really, that you might get pissed off? You fucking idiot. And then he uses the word like followers and shit. No, I'm not looking for that fuckhead. I'm looking for people who can have reasoning skills. And obviously you don't have any. And you're demonstrating. So I'm validated by this very point. Why would I fucking want some asshole on my side who switches side based on who sends him a compliment or not? Who sends him a birthday card? Yeah, I don't want that asshole on my side.
I'm making up physics on my own.
So there he goes. I'm making up physics on my own. No, I'm critiquing it in a pretty disciplined and lethargically, I mean, it's a slow process. You have to go through all this minutia. Yeah, it took me 10 fucking years to figure out how simple the two-slit experiment was. Because, yeah, I was fooled by all the dodges and all the bells and whistles they tied to it. And I didn't realize how fucking idiotically dumb simple it is. And I've explained it. Now, why don't you counter-explain? Why don't you explain how my made-up physics is wrong, shithead? No, instead of that, you just do this rag shit talking.
And there's nothing wrong with that, then y'all can go ahead and follow him.
See, it's more following crap. No, what you have to do is make a fucking argument, which I've been talking about from the very beginning. What is your argument? Where is your evidence? Did you link to any evidence? No. You read out of a textbook. The textbook didn't say a fucking thing about the evidence, right? It doesn't have... You read shit that had absolutely nothing to do with the arguments I'm making. There weren't counter arguments in any form whatsoever, so you couldn't even find a counter argument. You can't make one yourself, you can't recite one, and I'm certain you can't link me to one, because I've already played every fucking physics professor there is doing it wrong. So where's my failure here, fuckhead? The failure is yours. You have the failure to communicate in a civil, reasonable manner.
The F-ism land. I got off that train.
Yeah, you got off that train for what reason? A rational reason, or because, hey, the guru said I was a short, stupid, fat turd. Therefore, I'm not going to listen, and and everything he told me I'm going to say is wrong. You don't know how fucking obnoxious to anybody who understands what the truth is made out of that is. Nobody who loves the truth loves to hear this kind of rhetoric from people. You know, I'm not going to believe in what the Ayatollah told me because his beard has gray hairs in it. I mean, your logic is so fucking bad. It's bad enough that you're even playing this game of guru following, but it's so much worse that you're doing it based on these idiotic standards.
Nope. So Einstein is wrong because I say so. So this is an appeal.
No, you're the one appealing to your authority. You see, so fucking stupid he can't even figure out that when you go, I don't think so, and you don't have any evidence for what you think, then you're the one making the appeal from your authority. I made an appeal from logic. I explained it. I drew it. Did you do any of that? No. You just said, no, they did an experiment. No, they haven't done it.
To authority. Do you have no training on logical fallacies?
Okay, yeah, you have obviously no fucking goddamn will to do the work it requires to know what even the word logic means. It's combining facts, jackass. That's what logic is. You take fact A and you take fact B, and they do something when you put them next to each other. That's right, they create fact C. Okay, that's what logic is. And you fail to be able to understand that simple concept. Logic isn't your jargon. Logic isn't your fucking attitude. Okay, logic is putting words together in a sequence that makes an accurate statement. You can't do that. Alright, anyway. I mean, it's just so fucking goddamn stupid. Anyway. It's just... Alright, so Dino Ridgway brought this up a while ago, 5 days ago. So it's the Sabine Hassenfelder's latest video, right? So she's doing her book thing, selling her book. Year anniversary of her book. Lost in Math, which, it might be a nice critique, but she's just as lost in it. I mean, that's just the funny part. So, yeah, this is a perfectly reasonable comment in one respect. I mean, in the respect that you didn't do a search on my videos under that name, because you would have found I've already dealt with it, like, many times. I started to make a habit of, responding to any video she makes that's on anything close to a subject that could make sense. But anyway, so he says she briefly argues that physics is in a state of unproductive crisis lately. The crisis has existed since the 1800s when Young drew a his stupid wave dynamic, and it didn't even match the actual pattern. I mean, physics has been in a crisis for a long time. You could argue the day Benjamin Franklin got plus and minus wrong, and even when they figured it out a few years later, they never fixed it. I mean, the crisis is it has no real good integrity. It's not a good science. They're not very careful, period. They're not very careful, period. They're not very careful, period. Their lab is a sty. Okay, they can't do a controlled experiment to save their life, because there's bacteria everywhere. There's all kinds of, it's a shit science. They don't care about the scientific method. The repeatability crap, just a lie. Make up fake experiments we never even did. Let's talk about thought experiments as if they actually took place. And then they make up thought experiments to mock something like Schrodinger's cat, and then they end up make a bronze statue of Schrodinger's cat. And they all of a sudden say, "Yeah, isn't that cool? The cat's not dead or alive." It's a joke, for fuck's sake. They're trying to make a joke about how stupid your theory is, and they somehow turn the joke around and say, "Yeah, look at that. Isn't that brilliant?" I mean, fuck. Anyway, because actual experiments have become too expensive. No, they never had interest in actual experiments, and they always did experiments, right? The problem is they always do them to confirm what they already believe. So they manipulate the experiments, like the radar experiment, right? Putting the audio tone on it and all that bullshit. They manipulate experiments to force the results to look like what they think the world is. Okay, just like with the fake little wave tank crap I've had thrown at me, right? Where they put the way too aggressively noise-filled waves into the slit and then say, "Look at the pattern." Like, duh. Yeah, noise in, noise out. Duh. Right? I mean, that's the kind of crap they do, and they're proud to do it. They're proud to distort and pervert anywhere they can to make the diagram look like what they want it to look like. And she is just as guilty. So anyway, like I said, it's a decent enough mistake. I made the mistake, okay? For a few days, I thought, hey, there's somebody actually fighting for the truth. And then you find out, no, she's just full of neutrinos and gluons and pooons and shit-ons and all the other wooey entanglement crap. She's just as full of shit as the rest of them. I mean, based on shit evidence. Anyway. And she's just as much a follower of Dirac nonsense, antiparticles and all that crap. Anyway, mainstream physics seems to assume that anything possible with mathematics must also be possible in the real world. Well, I mean, obviously, we go back to the simplest of the mistakes. I mean, of their mathematics is their Einstein bent space model, where they basically say, well, look, it's a gravitational well, and I can make it go forever. Right? So, I mean, right there, you're just saying, oh, you figured there's an unlimited supply of energy in the universe. It can go an infinite amount of it. I can make an infinite black hole. I mean, oh, I'm too stupid. We're already done, aren't we? Oh, shit. But unfortunately, a few people, yourself included, but fortunately, a few people. See, that's just the problem. There's way too few. And you're saying, what does that really mean? The very fact that there's so few willing to say, oh, that's just too silly an explanation. That's just too silly. That's just too silly. There's just way too little evidence for us to even be having this conversation about multiverses. I mean, whoa. I mean, it's light years jumping the fucking cart. I mean, the horses are, it's just so frickin' stupid. Anyway. So yes, maybe I'll play that video in this video, but I probably won't, because I probably won't get through these fucking comments. So, another person I have to deal with, I suppose, Stephen Bro made some rag comments on the troll video. He's having some little conversation with Michael Falwell here. Falwell, so I'm close enough. Anyway, and, he makes these raggy comments because he thinks I'm a hypocrite. because I'm not allowed, obviously the trolls are making some sort of accusation that I should be arrested for certain things and that I have defrauded the government because I don't really have a disability, blah, blah, blah. That I didn't pay into Social Security, that I didn't do this, I didn't do all these things. Okay. And he thinks I did the same thing to Hothloday, when I merely said that Asperger's, okay, whatever you want to think that means, doesn't really, you can't use Asperger's as an excuse for every single thing that's wrong in your life. And the fact that Hothloday claimed that his Asperger's made it impossible for him to understand that he was insulting people, yes, I found that to be a bit silly. But I never made any accusations that anybody go attack his disability or tell the British government that he doesn't really have Asperger's or make any of those accusations. And it's a fundamental difference. And if you can't see that fundamental difference between the accusations made, all right, the trolls that you're commenting on his page is making a direct accusation that I've committed some fraud. You understand that, you fuckhead? All right, that has implications to my personal life. I didn't make any accusations at Hothloday that have any implications to that whatsoever. So fuck you, okay, for being too stupid and not being able to understand the difference. But he's another asshole that one minute he talks this, positive shit about what I'm doing, and then the next minute on the troll page he's talking this shit like, oh, he can go ahead, Stephen, if you have some brilliant theory, propose it. I've told you that directly to your face before. If you have some competing theory, well, why don't you just out what it is? Because you keep pretending you're doing experiments to demonstrate something, and the point is yeah, you're demonstrating them you're trying to prove your point. You weren't doing them for me. You were doing them for some agenda you have. All right, and it's not my agenda. And I did you see, he did send me a couple of these professionally made slits, and I did show a video of the results, and I was grateful for it. But it really doesn't give me the technology to, measure how many photons are hitting what location or do any of the experiments necessary that need to be done. So it's really not that useful. And second, they're not very durable because, I did shoot a green laser at one of them and melted it. But anyway, whatever. It's just these people are just such, they're just so full of shit. If we can't be friends, they can't make an argument anymore. A rational one. A fact-based one. So go ahead and make your physics argument, Stephen. Go ahead and make a physics video countering something I'm saying. All right? And I'll drill you the new asshole you deserve. So go ahead and try to make the argument. All right, I've given you an analysis of the double slit experiment. Like me, you should be an expert on it, right? You've done it a million times. You've seen a million videos. You've watched a million videos. Is there something wrong with my explanation, Stephen? Can you provide me some evidence that I'm wrong? No, you can't. Fuckhead. All right. So then he says, sorry, don't mean to spam with links, but after watching another Sabine's videos, it's clear she has a lot of the same issues with modern physics as you do. She obviously doesn't. Weak evidence doesn't bother her at all. Okay, so, and wacky explanations don't bother her at all. So clearly she's just infighting among the Muslims. She's whatever those two varieties of Muslim nut are. Yeah, she's one of them. She's Shiite, and the other ones are the, whatever they are. The banner on her YouTube page reads, Science Without All the Gobbledygook, which is hilarious because she hasn't made a single video that has a straight line in it anywhere. So it's full of gobbledygook. Anyway, her other videos deal with the problems of quantum measurement. Yeah, well, which is another almost too silly an argument. That interactions are measurements. They're really not. Okay, they're called interactions. Okay, some of them are measurements when the data will tell you something. Like the light bouncing off of me can be measured and give you some indication of how opaque I am. How much light reflected off of me. But it wasn't a measurement being done. It was the function of the universe. And so it's almost hilarious that they even think that we're going to call every single subatomic interaction between every single thing that's moving and any other thing that's not moving or moving and we're going to call that a measurement, is just too fucking stupid. I mean, you can just imagine photons flying through space all the time, right? And the truth is they do collide into little tiny atoms, and they do transmit through the atom. You know, I mean, there's all kinds of interactions happening. Some of them are benign; they don't change, okay, the universe much, and some of them change the universe a lot. But there's no way to know which ones are which until it actually happens. Oh, it's just so fucking stupid. Anyway. Alright. Looks like you have at least one mainstream ally with a PhD mainstream physics who seems to share your mission to de-wooing what we know about the universe. Well, like I said, she's bought into all the quantum woo. She just doesn't buy some of the space woo. The galactic woo she's a little bit apprehensive about, but she buys into all the quantum woo. And the funny thing is, for all the crap you take about being fringe, it's actually the mainstream physicists that have convinced me that you're onto something. I don't know exactly what that means, but whatever. Anything is onto something. I'm just saying their explanations are so bad, almost any explanation as an alternative is good. I mean, flat Earth has some life, merely because physics is so fucking silly. You know, so almost any alternative explanation is better than their woo. Oh, shit. I mean, you don't need a real detailed description of evolution to say, oh, God, that's so much better than that God crap. Yeah. Anyway, it actually, the mainstream physicists that, okay, anyway, your ideas reflect a lot of the same problems that professional, I don't know what that, honest physicists have been wrestling with for years. Yeah, I'm just saying that it's hard to see how any of them can be at all honest when you really don't see them objecting to anything. I mean, there's not a single, I haven't seen a single professional physics even say anything about the LIGO thing, and it's so, I mean, it's such bullshit on its face. You know, bouncing a beam of light through 1,600 mirrors and then saying you can measure 1/10,000th of the distance, the width of a proton. It makes no fucking sense. Alright. And I don't think your loudest detractors quite understand that. Well, my detractors don't understand anything about having integrity and honesty. All they understand is that they have a religion and they're going to fight for their Jesus. And that's it. That's all they understand. They believe in a non-deterministic special universe where they are special and magical beings, you know, doing something so fucking fascinating that the universe would be so void if it didn't have their presence in it. I mean, the universe would be just crying buckets of tears if, you know, Fartley didn't exist. He's such a wonderful, magnificent creature. He's just so fantastic. And he can't be all those things if I'm right. See, if I'm right, the universe is mechanical and deterministic, and we're all just stupid fucking stinking robots. He can't accept that. Oh, God, anyway. Alright, so physics novice does point out the truth, and then, you know, Falwell and Bro get into mishmash. So Tween Two says, the math is mainly there to scare and intimidate others, like our less-minded folk from learning their ivory tower nonsense. Well, you can clearly see that in lots of experiments where they convert something simple into something complicated, so they can use these abstractions. So there's a little bit of that in the two-slit experiment, because they focus on sine theta and the angle and all that kind of crap, where there's a second way of doing it, right? The simple way, right? So you can go with all this. Here's two openings, and I'm going to do their point sourcey stuff where, you know, they're identifying the point sources right in the sense that the variable is in the math, but they never draw it that way. They always draw it like it's coming from here and coming from here when it's really not. But anyway, you know, and they do their difference in the lines, and they do this, you know, off the normal, and, you know, then you got your angles, you know, your pieces of your angles, and so you got your sine theta here and your sine theta here, and all this complex whatever angle crap, just to say, yes, it's 38 degrees. You know, so they could just say it's 38 degrees, you know, and that would even be simpler. But instead, and what they could have done was just do the simple thing, right? What they could have done is said, okay, here's your radius. Now you can get the circumference of this line at a certain distance. That would be the radius. And it's 4.7 inches on that line. There, done. So, I mean, there's simpler ways to look at things. And so, and again, when they do things like, you know, momentum, which equals, you know, momentum they draw as a P to make it confusing, right? So momentum is P, all right? And so P equals, and instead of what we already know, which is velocity times mass, okay, no, it equals F, okay, which is some entirely different, already established quantity. This is already a something. You can't make this something into that something, okay, without breaking some rule somewhere. But yes, they just, you know, and then they make their little symbol and say, it's a wave function. Here's my symbol for it. You know, my forky little symbol. There, wave function. This times, you know, B squared, you know, divided by 7 equals everything. Yay. And the truth was, oh no, this actually equaled everything. But you had to know everything about something here. If you don't know enough here, okay, you don't know anything here. So you don't get any answer here if there's no information here. But this isn't even a thing. This isn't a quantity. It isn't like 7.8. Okay, that's not what it is. It's a pile of shit. In the sense that it's a you know, an almost infinite amount of knowledge about where something is and where's something been and where something's going. Well, anyway, yeah. So math is bullshit. Okay, well, enough on that. Excellent video summary. Okay, well, we won't bother with that. All right, this one I didn't understand at all, I don't think. An analogy just because. Well, I'm really not going to like that. I think you know. Magnet, center of spiral galaxy. Oh, fuck that. Iron filings, the galaxy's arms. Oh, fuck that too. It's not magnetic, it's just gravity. All right. The arms are orbiting each other, right? Unlike our solar system, a galaxy has symmetry. It has an equal amount of mass on both sides of the sun. Different. Anyway, north versus south tension, gravity versus centrifugal force tension. There's no centrifugal force, so there's no such thing. It's not a force. Anyway, in both cases, similar processes make the separation between the material no material arrangements. I don't know what that means. I wonder why you burn through all the topics at breakneck speed, and then I remember the title of the video. Okay, so you're just pointing out how you know, you're kind of stupid. You know, so whatever. Okay, fine. And then you got smart by reading the title. On to the trivial stuff. Oh, I don't want to do that. Should I call an ambulance? I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Usually I don't cheerlead, but the phrase, let's see how flat your earth is, was an absolute throwdown. Yeah, and they won't, you know, they won't allow themselves to be critiqued. It's clearly. I mean, the Sabine Hoffenpfeffer, she actually has, Hoffen, whatever it is, Felder. She actually has a website where she offers, you know, Skype kind of interactions with a physicist for like $50 an hour. And I submitted the form. No reply. Yeah. You know, I mean, these people are just such bullshitters. Um, DraftScience on the part about quantum locking. Oh, so yeah, we'll get to that someday. So he says, I said, can go upside down. So he says, you said that the wafer can't go upside down. Well, I think on the most recent video I didn't say that, but whatever. Yeah, someday I'll get around to getting back to that one. I mean, it gets into all this stuff of what happens at a low temperature and all that kind of crap. But there's no, again, it's just another one of these little phenomena. It's a little pigeon in the hand, and you have to explain where the pigeon came from. And so it's not going to be a magical explanation. Anyway, so this is just more crap. Let's see if there's anything. How does the polarizing explanation make any sense? The polarizer explanation. So, you know, these are the kind of, it's not even a question mark, right? But again, how does your theory make any sense? I mean, to me, it makes perfectly good sense if you understand that polarizing film is really just changing the photons in the sense that the lines in the film create a 2x phase shift, and the non-lines create a 1x phase shift. And so if you understand that's all that's the difference is, then you can understand that yes, the photon gets through the film, but the problem is that the bits are now all out of the wrong order. Your wave has been changed. Okay, so even if you believe in your silly wave theory, you should be able to understand that what has happened to your wave, okay, because of the polarizing film, is that your wave that was doing, you know, this, all right, has sort of been in a bizarre way, had notches moved. So this went through the 2x part because of the polarization, you know, the width of that. So some parts got through the 1x, this went through the 1x part. And because of that, now they're phase shifted. So now your wave has more than one piece of the wave is now in the wave. And the waves are out of order. So the nodes aren't in the same places anymore. So you can sort of understand that the field's herky-jerking on top of itself. And so you can't receive that as a photon because it's been distorted by going through the filter. But it's so hard to understand. Well, this is just the cowboy, so there's really probably no point reading any of it. The bits are hitting a proton. I don't even know where you got that from. Or electron. Yeah, more likely an electron. I thought they can only bounce 90 degrees or 180 degrees. I don't know why. See, this is just more of the stuff like, this is so simple, and yet he converts it. I guess my foot hit the camera cord. It did it again. Okay. Keep trying to get it right. All right, stay there. All right, so I mean, it's, you know, this is so simple, and yet he's trying to make it into something. Oh, that's totally impossible to understand. I can't get it. You know, there's two choices in the universe in terms of these interactions, right? Something's moving straight. Okay, it hits something. All right, and the energy reflects, and the object moves. Right. So here's an object gets hit. The energy reflects. The object moves. The other alternative is the energy hits. It does a interaction that you don't get to see, but you know, it interacts with something moving this way, a force. But anyway, the momentum goes this way, and the object goes this way. So that's all. The reflection is turned, and the motion is turned into a different dimension. It could be this dimension, okay, any one of those two. It could go up and down, or it could go left and right. It's going this way, and it's changed. So that's all there is. There isn't anything more than that necessary to create all the complexity in the universe, because that creates the possibility of trapping energy, you know, in perpetual closed systems. And that's all you need to do to make the universe there is, to make clumps of stuff, is to trap this energy. But anyway, but that's too complex. That's too much. Can't figure out how that can work at all. Two different kinds of interactions. Oh, that's not possible. Yeah. Well, anyway, it's just no point, right? There's no point in having a conversation where that is too bizarre a premise. You know, as an underlying theory of the whole entire universe, that little tiny difference in interactions can't possibly happen, but God can, right? Entanglement can. All that stuff is perfectly understandable. But something deciding instead of going this way, it goes that way. How could that possibly happen? Anyway, there's just no point. Crap. Who needs all this crap? Fuck that too. Anyway, no point. Yeah, I finally did block him. He's never on the subject, and it's always incomprehensible bullshit. So it's enough already. You need a mathematician to draw you a four-source experiment or do it yourself. I don't think I need to. If I need to, then people are way too imagination disabled to even participate in this conversation. I mean, if I actually have to take a piece of string and, do it for, kids? You're all 7 years old and you can't get the concept? I mean, if I actually have to build a scale, with weighted numbers, like the number 2 is in plastic and it weighs twice as much as a 1, right? And then I have to put them on scales to show you that 2 1s make a 2. I mean, if I actually have to do that in this conversation, then there's no point in having it. Because physics has got so many more complex layers than that. You'd get so slowed down if everything has to be put into, toddler speak. If I have to put everything in toddler speak, forget it. No point. Anyway. Alright, so this is... you once said you have no choice about determining the real structure of the universe. I have no choice about being me. Everything I am, everything I do, is ordained by the mixture. Okay? The mixture can't be anything other than what the mixture is. The previous experiences are everything. Okay, in terms of what my box has collected, right? We're all boxes, and you sit in the universe, and flies get into your box, and grasshoppers and all kinds of stuff jump in your box, and we all have different bugs in our box. Yeah, and so my box, from, as I pointed out, from grammar school, the first time I saw them draw a photon like this, I said, "What the fuck? What do you mean? What the fuck is that? How does it know it's supposed to do this shit? I mean, what the fuck are you talking about? Where does this come from? How does something move this way in a field that's doing this? I mean, what the fuck does any of that shit mean?" Yeah. So that was in my box. My box was, what the fuck is that? It's not even close to a straight line. That's quite a driven statement. Well, whatever. It's just the facts. The truth is, it's all deterministic. I exist. I do this because their fucking explanations are, in fact, silly. And a brain that does anything called logic in any kind of honest way is going to look at it and say, that's fucking silly. Fix it. Reality isn't supposed to be drawn that way. You've got the lens up its ass, okay? You're not looking at it right. This is quite a driven statement, and I wonder what the major impetus for that statement. Again, there's no major impetus. There's just the fact that I landed on planet Earth and I said, "Oh, what the fuck's going on?" And I look around and I drew obvious conclusions, right? Very young, I figured out, oh, people lie through their fucking teeth. You ask them a simple question. Why's that guy got one leg? And they give you some bullshit. Well, it's God's will. God, what the fuck is that? What are you talking about? Gingerbread stories? Oh, cool. You believe in that shit? That's as simple as it gets, fuckhead. I came to Earth, found out you're all lying scum, and just kept trying to point out, I don't think that's true. I I don't think you have any evidence for that. Anyway, I have my own reasons. Well, I don't know. I guess so, but I'm just trying to tell you. The reasons are going to be something like, that's too fucking stupid to believe. Which don't resonate with that well with yours. So I don't know. So you're trying to find God, and I'm trying to evade fables. Anyway, but in places here and there, I can make my own constructions more clear by watching your videos. Okay, well, I will be, pointing out something obvious, that straight lines are a lot simpler than that wavy crap. Anyway, another thing, are you originally European? Well, duh. I mean, do you mean me personally? Oh, me personally? No. Originally European. I detect a tiny accent in your voice. Yeah, well, I was born in New Jersey, but I grew up in Louisiana, and then I left Louisiana just in time. By the time I was 6, and so yeah, that's whatever my inflection is. That's what it's a byproduct of. Frankly, I guess it's as simple as obviously my parents weren't from the South, so they didn't speak Southern, right? So, in a sense, I wasn't allowed to speak Southern. I wasn't ain't no cred, blah blah. I wasn't allowed to do that lazy English thing. So I still spoke a kind of English when I got back to civilization. So when I left Louisiana, the dumbest fucking shithole on earth. Anyway, I loved the weather, but yeah, the people were just retarded. Just so fucking stupid. Anyway, yeah. So when I got back to New Jersey, I was a hick, but I didn't speak hick. So anyway, keep on plugging, regardless of the impetus for your quests, whatever that is. I usually have very interesting stuff. You usually. Yes, I'm usually try to be interesting. And your screen name sucks, by the way. I'm just letting you know. It sucks. God, it sucks so fucking bad. Anyway, Raging S. This is an asshole who I thought was already blocked, but I can always block him some more. What part of you have no experimental evidence to back your claims don't you understand? Well, I don't understand any of what you just said. I point to the actual experiments. I demonstrate the actual experiments. I play videos of the actual experiments. And I show how the actual experiments are completely consistent with what I'm arguing. So, what don't you understand about making a rational argument? You can't say, there's no sound on your video. No, there's obviously sound on my video, retard. What part of there is sound on the video, retard, don't you understand? The whole fucking subject is about you producing some counter evidence, some reason to believe your shit versus my shit, okay? My shit is so much better than your shit. It answers more questions and answers them simpler. My shit wins. Your shit loses. What don't you understand about you lose? Oh, God. It's funny that you need the attention of a real educational YouTube channels. So I've demonstrated they're really propaganda channels, that they can't describe a single slit accurately, right? A single slit experiment. This is about as simple as you can get, right? A single impediment experiment. It's about as simple as you can fucking get as an experiment. Look, I'm going to stick my finger and block the light and create a shadow. Yeah, it's about as simple as you can fucking goddamn get, and they can't describe it accurately. And that's what he calls educational YouTube channel. Anyway, to promote this one. No, the argument isn't to promote it. The argument is to have the argument. Okay, and obviously the only time they're going to show up is when I finally get enough views to scare the fuck out of them. But other than that, they're going to keep running away. Okay, they're not going to come here until they're forced to. And I clearly can't even bribe them to, because they're fucking afraid, right? I mean, I'm offering real money based on their standing. So, and they're too cowardly to show up. What I should try is maybe offering Ken Wheeler money because he has bought that new BMW. He's got to pay for, I imagine. You know, yeah. Oh, he's such a poor man. With his BMW. Just is kind of funny. Somebody who obviously couldn't give a shit about his appearance buys a show car. Doesn't make much sense. As I understand it, Baldy Katz is a science teacher, not a scientist. The point is he's making arguments on the internet, okay? Arguments from which there have some credibility and authority in terms of speaking for science. So I really don't care whether he has a specific degree. I'm only caring about the fact that he's making arguments, okay, as if, okay, he has right answers. And I'm just pointing out that he can't survive the same scrutiny he's applying to these retards. So he's making money, making fun of retards. And I'm just saying that table should be turned. And he should be subject to the same scrutiny and the same mockery. That would be a fair universe. All right. Let's see. Thank you. Blah, blah, blah. Hey, Gary, if you have not done so already, will you address the quantum eraser experiment? Yeah, well, in a future video. But I mean, I've already pointed out they can't accurately describe a single and double slit. And you believe them when they talk about crystals creating two entangled photons. And then I already explained how they're using polarization and calling it a spin property, which is nonsense. But I already explained the liabilities of using polarization to fuck with photons and decide which way a photon's going. But whatever, you wish to believe, believe. Okay, obviously the experiment isn't simpler, it's more complicated. They can't get the simple experiments right. Why do you believe they can do the complex ones correctly? Alright, Gary's logic. Okay, I tried to buy some exposure for my bibble babble. An exposure for what purpose other than to argue with your physicist? So you're crying because I'm trying to get them to answer questions. So you're saying that somehow I have some sort of cheat advantage by having the opportunity for your brilliant physicist to humiliate me, right? That's all I'm asking for, right? As I'm asking them to attempt to humiliate me. Go ahead, in some sort of fair manner, some manner I have some control over. Yes, they can do it if all they need is Photoshop, right? Yeah, then they can do anything they want to me. But I mean, where I have control enough to say, no, that's not the question I asked you. I asked you what evidence you have. What evidence compels you to believe, that kind of thing. So, but anyway, so that's just so funny. It's not just about exposure. The whole point of the exposure is for what purpose? To provoke the argument. The argument is the value. That's the thing I'm saying has value. You saying it doesn't have any value for them to answer questions. I say there's lots of value in getting them to answer questions. All right. I try to taunt my way into exposure. Well, I'll do it any way I can. That's right. When they don't answer the email when you send it to them politely, well, then you get impolite. Right? Baldy Katz. I mean, months ago, I asked him for this opportunity, and he just kind of evaded it, right? So I just thought he got disinterested, right? He said yes, and blah, 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 and then he said, something, and, to cop out. And so I just brought it up again. And we saw him do it exactly the same thing again. Cop out. All right. I have tried insulting dozens of people by name to taunt them into giving me exposure. Yes, exactly. What else can you do? I'm taunted into replying to some assholes who don't really deserve it. So that's just part of life. Not much you can do about it. But, to some extent, that's what you have as a last resort. Nothing works. No one is fooled. So I don't need to see. Again, who am I trying to fool? I'm trying to solicit something that somehow you think, okay, is of value, no value to you. Having your physicist argue with me. Somehow you think that has no value. Somehow them proving I'm an idiot would have no value to you. Why wouldn't that have value to you? Why wouldn't you want to see that? Why wouldn't you want me to see me fatally destroyed by their brilliance? Why does that scare you as a concept? Okay. No one gives me the time of day. Yeah. Again, so when he says poor me, no, I say poor planet Earth, because you're obviously part of a fucking brainwashed idiocracy who can't think about anything and can't change anything, can't fix anything. You're just a cop out, drone for bullshit. And look at your little troll army, 12 thumbs up. Oh, do we think those are real? No, we really don't think so. Sock accounts, you have to make your world out of sock accounts. You have to use trickery and fraud to make your arguments. Right? Right? Exactly. Alright, and this blind idiot god, whatever that even means, more of this horse shit. Draft a paper exhaustively treating every aspect of your theory. No, that won't even be, that would be stupid. Obviously, they're not going to pay any attention to the whole theory. But now that I have the two slit completely nailed, that might be worth writing a paper on. Tie in a critique against modern physics. You might end up with a book. Yeah, right. And why do you people think books are so brilliant that everybody reads them? They don't get read. Okay, you have to have a book promoted and published. You have to have a name. I mean, lots of things have to happen for a book to get sold or to be read by anybody, shithead. And what exactly is the difference between me putting a book on the internet that costs money, right? So let's even say I give it away for free, and making a video? I mean, if you were to do the numbers, how many people do you think have watched Ken Wheeler's videos versus read Ken Wheeler's innately stupid book? You really think anybody with a brain has read his book? Oh, fuck. Publish it. You might blow up, at least stir the water. So again, you just have this fallacy notion that books are somehow special and that there's every book that's published gets read by somebody. No, the books are just as much of a popularity engine. They're just as much of a promotion and bullshit engine. So somebody thinks they have to think they can make money off of it and do some kind of racket and blah, blah, blah. And, maybe I could fool a publisher. Maybe I could sit there and get him to understand that, yeah, this is, you're on the inside. It's like insider information. There's big gain to be made because these really are legitimate arguments, and sooner or later they're going to have to be dealt with. And if you're the publisher who published the first book, you're going to really be in on the ground floor kind of thing. So maybe, but I don't got time for that shit. I have to get an agent to do the promoting, the arguing to the publishers that it's really a viable property. I mean, whatever. But this perception that books are magical, I just don't get it in the internet age. They're really not. They're losing all their magic. All right. So I don't think there's anything else. I'm just sick of this. Okay, so try picking a challenge with Sean Carroll. So no offense, Nick, but you can just search right on YouTube there. There's a little search bar. See the little thing here? You click in this little box here. Well, where did the box go? Strange. I actually have to hit the stupid search thing to pop it open. Okay, well anyway. You pop that search thing open, right? And you just say draft physics. And then you type in Sean Carroll. And guess what? You'll get a bunch of videos I made responding to Sean Carroll's bullshit. Now, it was fun, the first couple, because he actually was on subjects that were somehow rational. But he thinks the most important ideas in the universe, and his ideas are silly. I mean, he doesn't do like magnetism, electricity, photons, that kind of... No. It's all, abstract horse shit. Alright, fans isn't aimed at you guys, and I can boldly well tell that new readers that the people Gary has and challenging, I don't know what the hell that is, but okay, never mind. Oh, it's the Doug idiot again. I think QM was an overcomplicated ruse. See, this is stuff, it's not a ruse. it's what, like I said, it just has to do with the fact that religion really isn't dead. There's a lot of atheists who are still religious. They still want a spiritual, happy universe story. They still want to make it all out of gingerbread. They just don't want a God telling them what to do. You know what I mean? They want the magical part, but they don't want the God running it. To protect human society from too much knowledge. Well, whatever. I mean, conspiracy theories are really uninteresting. Alright, the screen on the side of the ellipse. So what the fuck are you talking about? The screen is the side of an ellipse for the one slit. What are you talking about? And the intermixed sides of 6 ellipses for the double slit. What are you talking about? Oh, God, I don't know. No. But this is the part of the thing, right? I mean, the whole agenda here is an argument between the conventional theory as described by their people, their icons, and mine. And to compare those two. And then these assholes show up and start doing, well, option 3 is, pigeons are made out of styrofoam and you can make them really small and then they poof big in your hand. No, it's not really a third option. Anyway, okay, enough of a video. So, if I offended you, fine, good, cool. I don't fucking care. Get that part? I'm not looking for friends. I'm not looking for followers. I'm not looking for minions. I'm not looking for... It'd be nice if, I mean, I have a guy working on a simulation, right? But he hasn't gotten in contact with me in 2 weeks. The other guy died, I guess, in Australia, which is sort of depressing. Mysteriously just disappeared. Sad. I mean, really. Anyway. So, yeah, I don't mind some people who are also interested in the truth and wish to do experiments or something. That's super. But I'm right. This is I'm not here for the social fun. I have no interest in social fun. I have interest in rational arguments on the subject, not arguments about my life or how I live it or what my other philosophical perceptions are. I just want to do a physics channel and argue physics. That's it. Physics arguments. Can you do that? Can you make physics arguments? Arguments from evidence. Arguments from facts. Can you have facts in your arguments? Can you state things as facts? Something more interesting than, you're stupid. Can you do better than that? Well, obviously, I'm going to be saying you're stupid, but I'm not asserting it as a physics argument. Okay, I'm not asserting it as part of the physics argument. I'm just stating it as you have to start somewhere. Okay, and on the subject is the first place you have to start. And if you can't stay on the subject, then I have to say, as a fact, you're too fucking stupid to be watching these videos. Alright. So, till the next time. Or at least commenting on them. Yeah, I just want to say, I hate this planet. I mean, it really is the planet of the fucking stupid assholes. You just have no right to call you anything other than the stupid fucking human race. I mean, we have no right to label ourselves anything but fucking too fucking stupid. And these fucking goddamn life-loving idiots, hyping all this crap. Yeah. Born in the USA, wave a flag. Fuck.